How much do you trust the products you buy? What about when the company selling them has built its entire brand on quality, precision, and meticulous German engineering? For decades, Volkswagen promised reliability. Then they promised something even bigger: responsibility. They launched the Clean Diesel campaign. You bought the car because you believed you were getting efficiency, power, and peace of mind. You were driving a car that was going to save the planet, or at least not destroy it. You felt good about your purchase. But what if the entire campaign was based on a brazen, technically sophisticated lie that required a team of engineers to build a secret pollution machine? What if every time you drove that car, you were unknowingly pumping 40 times the legal limit of toxic fumes into the air? This is the story of the Volkswagen lie. A corporate betrayal that cost the company over 40 billion and destroyed the reputation of a nation's engineering prowess. It wasn't a banking collapse. It wasn't a counting fraud in a spreadsheet. This fraud was built into the very code of the car, right under your seat. Let's take a closer look at the greatest corporate deception of the 21st century. The story begins around 2005. The massive German conglomerate Volkswagen was obsessed with a single goal: to surpass Toyota and become the world's #1 car company by 2018. To achieve this, they needed to break into the huge, lucrative American market. In America, if you wanted high fuel efficiency and power, you had to sell diesel cars. However, there was an impossible dilemma. American emission standards are extremely strict, especially for nitrous oxide, NOx, a harmful pollutant. Volkswagen ES high-performance diesel engines, the ones Americans wanted, were almost physically incapable of meeting these limits while maintaining the promised power and efficiency. A genuinely clean diesel engine would have been expensive, bulky, and slow. The engineers were caught between a scientific impossibility and a corporate ultimatum. Innovation was not the solution. They decided to cheat. Facing intense internal pressure, VW's engineers were reportedly instructed to find a way to pass the tests without compromising engine performance. Innovation became deception. The company didn't just tweak the system. It designed a malicious piece of software, a defeat device, which was installed deep within the engine control unit, ECU. This wasn't a simple bug. It was deliberately designed and hidden within the code to evade external scrutiny. Here's how the sinister code worked. It's brilliant in its criminality. The software was programmed to recognize the specific sequence of events that constitute an official government emissions test. It identified the relevant patterns, such as constant speed, engine runtime, pressure, and crucially, lack of steering wheel movement. The software used these factors as a kind of secret handshake. The moment the car realized it was being tested, the moment it recognized the lab conditions, the defeat device activated. This activated the full expensive emissions control system, ensuring the car ran cleanly and passed the test with flying colors. However, as soon as the test ended and the car hit the road, the moment the steering wheel turned or the speed varied, the software instantly deactivated the emission controls. Power and efficiency were prioritized, and the car returned to polluting mode, emitting 15 to 40 times the legal limit of NOx. It was systematic and two-faced. Meticulous German engineering was used not to solve an engineering problem, but to create the world's most sophisticated pollution machine. The fact that this software was installed in over 11 million cars worldwide, including models from Audi, Porsche, and Seat, means that this was not the work of one or two rogue engineers. It was an institutionalized corporate decision. The root of the problem lies in the aggressive corporate culture that was established under the leadership of former CEO Martin Winterkorn. Winterkorn ran the company like a dictatorship. He was a notoriously demanding leader with impossibly high standards and a fierce determination to surpass Toyota at any cost. In this high-pressure environment, failure was not an option. If an engineer raised an issue, they weren't given additional resources. They were simply told to solve it. This created a culture in which managers knew they could not tell Winterkorn that clean diesel was scientifically impossible at that price point. Rather than admitting a technical limitation, managers began seeking solutions that preserved the lie. Honesty was sacrificed for sales targets, creating an internal culture where this became the norm. The engineers who built the device were caught in the middle, facing immense pressure from above, to use their skills not for innovation, but for cover-up. The heroes of this story are not regulators or government agencies, but a small non-profit environmental organization called the International Council on Clean Transportation, ICCT. Their goal was straightforward: to prove that American diesel cars were cleaner than their European counterparts. In 2014, the ICCT hired a team from West Virginia University to conduct a straightforward real-world test. They didn't use a highly regulated laboratory. Instead, they placed sophisticated, portable emission measuring equipment on the back of 3 diesel cars, 2 VWs and 1 BMW, and drove them on the road. The results were immediate, undeniable, and shocking. The BMW performed as expected. However, the VW Jetta and Passat showed wildly erratic results. They had passed the lab test perfectly, but as soon as they hit the motorway, their pollution levels spiked to between 15 and 40 times the legal limit. The researchers thought their equipment was faulty. They retested. They took the results to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the California Air Resources Board, CARB. Initially, VW attempted to deceive them, blaming technical glitches and random conditions. However, the investigators persisted, demanding the source code. In the summer of 2015, facing the possibility of the EPA denying certification for their new models, a VW employee finally confessed and exposed the sophisticated defeat device software. In September 2015, the EPA issued a notice of violation. The house of cards collapsed instantly, not because of a stock analyst, but because of a small group of scientists who had attached a device to the back of a car. The consequences for Volkswagen were catastrophic and hit fast and hard. CEO Martin Winterkorn immediately resigned, claiming he was unaware of the scandal, a claim that many find hard to believe, given the company culture he fostered. The company was hit with fines, penalties, and buyback costs totaling over $35 billion globally. This included a $2.8 billion criminal fine in the U.S. and a $14.7 billion settlement to buy back almost 500,000 polluting cars from consumers. It was the most expensive corporate scandal in history. Several executives, including the head of VW's U.S. operations and key engineers, were arrested in the U.S. and Germany. For the first time, those who ran the company faced the prospect of serious jail time rather than just fines. The German engineering mantra was permanently tarnished. While the financial cost was staggering, the true price was the loss of global trust in the brand. The Volkswagen scandal forced the entire auto industry to make a massive, accelerated shift. The scandal itself became the primary catalyst for VW's complete pivot towards electric vehicles, EVs, in a desperate multi-billion-dollar attempt to regain environmental and moral authority. The Volkswagen scandal is the ultimate cautionary tale about corporate culture and accountability. It shows that when the pressure to achieve impossible targets outweighs the fear of being caught, morality disappears. They were obsessed with being the biggest, but forgot the most fundamental rule of business: don't lie to your customers or the planet. Volkswagen didn't just cheat in a test. They damaged the global reputation of one of the world's most trusted brands. The financial cost of that single lie will be felt for decades to come.